Today marks the 113th anniversary of the African National Congress. The party was founded in 1912 in Bloemfontein in the Free State. It is the oldest liberation movement on the African continent. In the past few years, the party has faced many challenges, including internal leadership conflicts and decline in electoral support. To look at the significance of the ANC's 113th birthday, we are joined by political analyst Asanda Ngoasheng. Asanda, great to have you. Thanks so much for weighing in on this conversation with us, and Happy New Year.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So, when we observe as to what is happening within the ANC at the moment, how do you think its founders would say as it celebrates 113th birthday, or its 113th anniversary? What would they say looking at the party now?
Well, I think they'd be very disappointed at the corruption that has become endemic in the political party. I think they'd also be disappointed in the ways in which the ANC doesn't really know how to engage with Black people as a unified force, as it was able to, in older times. And I think that, one of the biggest mistakes of the ANC is taking for granted the fact that all Black organizations in the majority were united behind it. And now that is no longer the case, including the fact that you've got an SACP that used to be its alliance partner that has vowed to take the next election as independents away from the ANC. And so these are the things that I think that, the founders would be disappointed in. But of course, I think that the founders would also be proud of some of the achievements that the ANC has managed to achieve, because in the past 30 years, although the last 10 were quite dismal, there's a lot that has been achieved in terms of moving Black people from where they were in 1994 to where they are now in 2024. I mean, even someone like me wouldn't be able to be on TV giving, their opinion on the political state, and the fact that we are able to have conversations where we can criticize the ANC is a testament to some of the work that they've done to deliver democracy in a way that isn't available in most African countries. So it would be a mixed bag of sadness and pride.
Yeah, it certainly would be. But if we take, for an example, last year, and I don't only look at what happened in the elections here in South Africa, but if we look in general on the African continent and liberation movements and how many people voted for change, and many people looked at this and said, this is not what we're looking for in political movements anymore. The ANC has, of course, been a party that survived for more than 100 years. But what do you think the future looks for? Because, now at stake, 30 years into our democracy, what is at stake for them?
Well, I think, a lot of people feel like, thank you, ANC, you've done enough for us. We are happy to now give other new people the opportunity. And we're seeing this, as you said, across the continent. Right now in Mozambique, people have been protesting after Frelimo, which is another liberation movement, won elections yet again. In Zimbabwe itself is struggling to get rid of ZANU-PF, which has been in power since independence. And same with Namibia, SWAPO just won again, and not everybody is happy with that. And in Botswana, we've just got a new person who has displaced again another long-standing political party. And so there is a wave that's happening across the African continent where people are saying the people who were able and ready and had the potential to take us out of colonization and into independence are now not necessarily the best people to take us into the future, because the future has complicated problems. And I think, one of the things that when we started talking about concepts like globalization, which is the impact of global policies, global economies, and global issues on local communities, we didn't, as South Africa, yet experience its deprivation. So, when we started talking about colonization 20 years ago, when I was still a student, it was something that was a concept. But right now, it is a reality. So when we look at illegal mining, mining, for example, we are, as South Africa, experiencing in part weaknesses of the ANC in ensuring that illegal migration is not, is dealt with, weaknesses within the system, the various corruption, the various kinds of corruption that this country has. But it is also a result of globalization, wherein you have a region in South African development community that is unfortunately mad in illegal mining. So you've got the DRC having illegal mining, you've got Zimbabwe having illegal mining. And so South Africa is definitely not going to be able to get away scot-free without any illegal mining when it is surrounded by neighbors who are involved in this. And in fact, if you look at the factors that are coming up in this illegal mining, firstly, you've got young children, minors, who are often, orphans from across the region, working in these mines that are illegal. We see that in the DRC and we see that in Zimbabwe. Yeah. If you look at, some of the big players that are supposedly official mining companies involved in illegal mining across the region. If you look at the organized gangs themselves who are involved in illegal mining operating across the region. And so the solutions that are needed are more complex than what the ANC and other, liberation parties have been able to deliver. If we look at issues of cybersecurity, we're seeing that, the FBI has had to come into South Africa and provide support and extradite people to take them to America for romance scams, to take them to America for 499 scams and various other scams. And we've seen our own institutions, both at a private level and also at a public sector level, being, finding themselves insecure in terms of security. The latest case that we're looking at is the very president's son-in-law, who owns Time Bank, and in his ownership of Time Bank, last time I checked, has not even come out to make a statement about the accusations that his bank actually allowed scamsters to be able to access the system that pays out the 350 grant, which has meant that people who are desperately in need for this grant have themselves been defrauded. And so you have the combination in that example alone of, allegations of corruption, potential corruption, and then you also have the impact of global cyber crime that has now taken on South Africa and is abusing the weaknesses of South African systems.
And I think what you're pointing out is, of course, the problems and issues that we face in the now as opposed to looking back. And that is possibly a problem that many feel that liberation movements do, is that they keep looking back at what they managed to achieve. However, when we look at right now, high unemployment figures, high cost of living, poor service delivery, corruption in so many different spheres. And the question needs to be asked is, how is the ANC going to be able to persuade the public to remember why it was founded on this day 113 years ago? And will it make a difference in this day and age with even just issues that you've been mentioning?
Well, it's going to be a very tough call for them because they're sitting at 40% at this point in time, and they'll be lucky if they retain that 40%, in 2029, or even gain a lot of the municipalities that they had in 2026 local government elections. And part of this is because they've had a strategy where they didn't send their strongest people to local government. And local government is the core face of government. It is the place at which service delivery happens. If the road you're driving on has potholes and isn't serviceable or usable, that has an impact, a direct impact on your daily life. Even Cape Town, where they are, the issue of townships being under siege from extortionists is an issue of both the ANC and the DA who governs the province, because South African Police Service is supposed to have dealt with this, and the Western Cape itself is supposed to have provided some level of support to eradicate this issue and not allowed it to get to the place that it is now. And so they're likely to see a lot of people calling them out during this period in the Western Cape, where it is now, as far as I'm concerned, they are campaigning. And I think that, it's a very difficult time to be a political party that is struggling, particularly with corruption, because audiences, voters are no longer interested in excuses from political parties. They want service delivery, and they don't want to see people living lavish lives based off of money that is supposed to be coming to them, particularly in a mineral-rich country like South Africa that that has the money, but the money is stuck in the system, both in terms of the corruption by the private sector and the illegal mining, but also in terms of the government, corruption that we are seeing. And unfortunately, one of the biggest issues with the ANC at the moment is that it literally poisoned the well, because you have members like Jacob Zuma and his whole list of people who are now members of the MK who were accused of corruption during state capture, were not dealt with, were not held accountable, and were not properly investigated and punished in the ways that they should. And now they are in parliament causing instability by having new members of parliament every 3 months, which means we're not likely to see the level of political stability that we used to. We're not likely to see the level of stability in lawmaking that we are used to. And so their corruption has now poisoned the entire system. It's no longer that the rot is within the ANC, but the rot is within the whole political system of South Africa. And that's why I think it's important that South Africans have taken some of the actions that they've taken to spread out their votes across the political parties. And that's how we end up with the GNU, because
Indeed.
I think South Africans don't feel they can trust any political party at this point to take us to where we need to go post 2029, post 2026, and to be in this world where we can survive the negative impacts, dire impacts of globalization that have made 30%, according to data, of South Africans who left 1994 to come back because things are so expensive and Europe isn't what it used to be.
Indeed.
And so we are going to suffer hyperinflation because those people are coming with dollars, with pounds and money that we cannot afford, and rents are increasing and food is increasing. And so we're just in a big mess that is also because of the global economic system that's also in crisis. And so we need strong leadership, and we need leadership with a vision.
All right, Asanda, we have to leave it there for now. But thanks for weighing in on the conversation, and certainly a lot to talk about as we gather momentum when that address will be held. Of course, it's happening. There's a big event planned for today, but certainly the event and the statement to be delivered this coming weekend, and that'll be happening in Khayelitsha in the stadium there. But Asanda Ngoasheng giving us a bit of an insight into her views on how the ANC is doing 113 years on its anniversary today.